Watcher has finally released. After exactly 1 year of waiting, it has finally come out. I thought I'd make a quick unscripted video, trying to do a spoiler-free review of this DLC, as the reception of this DLC seems a bit mixed. I personally think it's awesome and worth playing, but very reminiscent of Survivor or Monk's campaign, where you're sort of thrown headfirst into a random crazy world. It's kind of like the antithesis of the Downpour DLC, which was much more straightforward. If that was a straight line, this is like a spaghetti noodle. I think how I'm going to do this video is list the pros and cons I found while playing Watcher. I have beaten the main story and it took about 16 hours, but a lot of it was me messing around, so it could be more like 13 or 14. There will be light spoilers ahead. I will be showing the first area as gameplay. I don't want to use arena mode for the whole B-roll of this video, and there will be some music from the DLC playing in the background. So with that spoiler warning, let's get into the pros and cons of the Watcher. Firstly, I would like to say it has a very unique story. I've seen a lot of the Steam reviews saying it has no story, but that's just like patently untrue. I don't want to discuss too much about the lore, especially if I want to make my own video later down the line discussing it, but I felt like the story kind of went over people's heads for some reason. Maybe because it's much less simpler than Vanilla and Downpour. You're not really looking for a lost family or trying to avenge your dead kids. It's very tangly and messy, but I think that's what makes it unique. Anyway, I'll put it in pro and a con. I would say this DLC is very exploration focused, featuring a bunch of brand new regions, and lots of different areas to stumble across. In my playthrough I missed 2 areas entirely, and only fully explored like half of them, so there's definitely a lot to see and do, and it would definitely take multiple playthroughs. However, with this heavy focus on exploration, there is a ton of backtracking. Like, expect to see the same few regions over and over and over again. And I think this is my biggest issue, it gets a bit insane. I'd say my advice is to turn over literally every stone in a region, just so you don't miss anything important. Because a bunch of times I was like, oh yeah, let me not explore this room, and it came back to bite me because that's where you need to go to progress or something. I quite like exploring at my own pace in video games, but since this DLC has mandatory heavy exploration, I feel like this is going to be a major turn-off to a lot of people that just want a simple story, without having to exhaustively explore whole-ass regions. A lot of the new regions are from pre-existing mods that have either been on the workshop or have been released previously in older versions, and I feel like the inclusion of these pre-modded DLCs kind of just sucks. Most of them are really low on my region rankings, and feel kind of dated and clunky compared to the brand new regions designed for the Watcher specifically. And since a lot of the layouts of these regions have been changed, there is a ton of dead ends, which are kind of pointless and time wasters. I think this is also due to the fact that there's no arena unlocks and additional content like that as of right now, so they can't put like unlock tokens in the little corners of the regions. But I definitely think some rooms should be added to sort of loop back into the region. I think dead ends are just horrible for rain mode, or in any game really. Another key part of the Watcher is the brand new creatures, and these are fully custom creatures, they aren't variants. A lot of these creatures are really awesome looking, and basically destroyed the more slugcats and modded creatures that already exist. They are on a whole nother level. Alongside these is a few creature variants of existing creatures, and these are also really good. But some of the spawns of these creatures are absolutely atrocious. Either there's barely any of them when there should be lots of them, or they're kind of just spammed to high hell and back. But the spawns can be easily changed, so I'm not too worried. Plus most of the regions seem pretty balanced. However, I do think some of the new gimmicks that come with these creatures are really sort of either just not that fun or really surface level and kind of uninteresting. And it seems a lot of these new creatures don't really react to the ecosystem. A lot of them just feels kind of slapped in there and they don't really interact with other creatures beside the player. I'd love to list some examples, but sadly, spoiler free. I can't, I'm bound by the laws of spoilers. This is one of those aspects I want to really see improved in the DLC, as the creatures look and can have the potential to be absolutely amazing. But right now they just feel kind of stale. And I mentioned this with the creatures, but the visual effects are absolutely disgustingly good in this DLC. I don't know what sort of shaded demons they summoned to make everything look amazing, but it looks amazing. Like, they absolutely knocked it out of the park with the visual effects. But some of the visual effects can be very intrusive at times, taking up and obscuring the screen when you kind of want to see the threat around you. That has gotten me killed a lot of times during my playthrough, but I think they can be tweaked to be a bit nicer on the eyes. I do want to mention here that one of the regions is incredibly overstimulating with the effects. Like, some of the rooms are very, very noisy. I don't want to spoil any of the region by showing footage of it, but hopefully this region does get a visual rework to be less noisy as it could have potential to be a really awesome region. And luckily it is optional, so if you're prone to like overstimulating visuals, it can be skipped entirely. Okay, my final con with this DLC, that I think is the biggest issue it has at the moment, is the fact that it has very poorly explained progression and mechanics. Like, I sort of had to ask for help like twice in the campaign because I just didn't know where to go, and there was no explanation of where to go in-game. You don't get like an Iggy Overseer that tries to direct you, or some Void Spawn that also tries to direct you. You kind of just have to explore and find stuff, which, as I said before, can be a massive turn-off to some. I think some simple pop-ups could be added to sort of alleviate this issue, like how in the base game gives vague hints about how the jetfish work, or that karma flowers are important, stuff like that. I'm not saying every mechanic needs to be explained and like dumbed down, like saying, oh, you need to do this to do that, because Reynord's all about experimentation and trial and error. But some of the stuff it expects you to do is so obtuse, like how the hell do you expect me to know that? This mainly goes for the story and progression stuff. I loved learning how to interact with some of the creatures and mechanics during my exploration of some of the regions. That's still a big aspect of this DLC. So there's my main pros and cons. I'd say generally, if you like the unforgivingness of the base game, and also heavy exploration elements, this DLC is for you. But if you want a nice, straightforward, simple DLC, this is not for you, as the backtracking and dead ends kind of waste your time, and a lot of the mechanics are very obscure and poorly explained, so it's definitely very frustrating at times. I would say in this case hold off on the purchase for now, as there is confirmed updates coming later down the line that will add new content and fix some of the issues I listed, hopefully. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little review I made. I'll definitely be making lots more Watcher content, as there is a lot to discuss and talk about, but I think my next videos will probably contain quite a lot of spoilers. I overall enjoyed my experience with the Watcher, although it did piss me off a couple times. So it's not all sunshines and rainbows, it definitely has its issues. So I'll see you in the next video, goodbye!